What is up, my guys? Welcome back to the channel known as Azure. As always, I'm your most endearing of host, Daniel. And today we're going to take a little bit of a sidestep in what I normally talk about. Instead of visual media like movies and TV shows and all that stuff, we're going to take it more on the more literature side. Literature? Is that how you say it? I don't know. But yeah, let's talk about a book for once, like an actual book, not like a comic book like I talked about before in my Three Joker storyline, which you should check out if you want to or not. But we're going to talk about a regular book, like an actual book, a full-on novel. I think. I don't know. I don't know what counts as a novel these days. But before we get started, I'm gonna do that typical YouTube shit you're probably all bored of, but gotta promote the channel. So make sure if you like this one, share it. Like I always say, share the videos. Even if you don't like it, share it. Comment what you want. Comment what you don't want. Just do whatever the fuck you want. Honestly, I can't control you. You can't control me. But hey, here we are. Anyways, so the title of this book is kind of. It's just. Look, I'm just gonna say it. It's the title of the series is called Everybody Loves a Large Chest, and the first volume in this series is called Morningwood. I'm just gonna pause right here because I know some of you guys are laughing. Yeah, I know this is a double entendre or whatever pseudonym or whatever the hell you want to say it is, but yeah, the author knew what he was doing like the minute he thought of this title. The author, by the way, is Nevin Elif. I'm probably butchering that name, but it is what it is. I've never heard it being spoken. I've only read it. So, yeah, Nevin Elif. Essentially, this book is actually pretty interesting. Like, a friend of mine recommended it to me like a few years ago. And I kept putting it off because, well, I didn't really like reading at the time. But I was like, now I'm older. Now I'm just like, okay, sure. Might as well give this thing a shot. And so I read it. I enjoyed it. I had some questionable thoughts in the middle of it because, well, I'm going to get into that later. But yeah. So the basic story is that it follows a mimic. Like if you guys don't know what a mimic is, you probably haven't played Dark Souls at all or any other kind of adventure game, and it's at all because this is basically what this book is—a long ass adventure game that you have no control over. But anyways, a mimic is like usually like a monster that could disguise itself as a chest, a drawer, or anything like that. And this mimic turns out to be a chest. And starts off with him being in a dungeon, typical as where chests normally are. And first off, the prologue to this book makes you think you're following like a kid adventure, like in a sense. It goes on through all detail, describing the character, going to what he feels like, where he's from, what he's doing in the dungeon, and everything like that. But then he looks on a chest, and he sees that it's been untouched, and he sees that like it's just there, like literally like all the book describes as shining light through and highlights the chest and everything like that. And the kid goes, "Oh well, people probably left this one because it has like crap loot or some shit like that." But yeah, he takes it, he goes into it and looks at it and opens it up. The minute he opens it up, instant regret because all he sees are teeth, and the next thing you know, his head's gone, his body's gone, his torso, everything's like a whole bloody mess. It literally goes into detail, like all the blood spraying across every single wall and everything like that. So yeah, the story is actually about this mimic. Now this mimic has no name right now. Like throughout the majority of the book, no name because well, he's a mimic. His name basically is a mimic. But this it follows the mimic and his like ascension to becoming a lesser mimic. Because in this book, there's lessers and greater mimics. I don't know if that's how it is in games because I haven't played Dark Souls either, or any other adventure game either. But I still know what mimics are. Yeah, because like my other friends tell me what mimics are. They tell me about Dark Souls. They tell me about all the other stuff. But yeah. So in a sense, it follows his ascension to power throughout the dungeon, throughout the forest that the dungeon's in, throughout the cities that he ends up sneaking around into, meeting a lot of new characters, eating most of them. I'm gonna say because that's basically what a mimic does. He eats and everything. The thing is though, his rise to power, it's an accident. Legit, it's an accident. Like after he eats the first kid that we spent like a whole chapter learning about, he picks up his sword and tries to eat that, and he hurts himself because, well, it's a sword. He ends up stabbing himself in the mouth, and so on and so forth. Then he drops it. He notices that he lost health, and then he like stretches out a tentacle from the inside of him because he can transform his limbs and such. And he picks up the sword, and as soon as he picks up the sword, he sees a little headline says Sword Mastery Level 1 because it's an RPG type game, book, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, so literally, just by picking up the sword, he now knows how to wield a sword in a sense, like just swinging it around, banging it on the floor, and like that's legit all he could do. But surprisingly, he kills a lot of people with that sword. Like no doubt, like there's in the next few chapters it describes like a witch that goes into the dungeon because she's heard rumors of a monster there that shouldn't be there, aka the mimic, because he rose to about what level 15 I think, and like that dungeon's only meant for people for monsters level 5 and under. And so she tries to go in and kill it, but she gets distracted because because she's doing like a lewd act. She gets turned on by the fact that the monster's in there that's killing people. Legit, the book goes into such great detail about that. It's borderline porn. I'm gonna say that this is borderline porn, but it's not porn at the same time. It's a weird book, but it's so weird that it's interesting. That's all I gotta say. Like there's more lewd stuff, more descriptive stuff in this. Like there's a sex scene in this book. Legit, there's a fucking sex scene in this book, but it's done in a comedic way too. Like I don't know, maybe like if you guys have seen Bruno, like kind of like that in a sense, or not really that far because I know Bruno's like that sex scene and Bruno's just like all just kinds of wrong. And I don't mean because it's two dudes. I don't care if you what the fuck you fuck as long as not kids, animals are the fucking dead. But I don't care what you fuck. But honestly, oh my god, when I read that sex scene, I had to do a double take to make sure I was reading the book right, and I didn't accidentally like buy this porno book or some shit like that. But oh my god, this book is hilarious, creepy, sexual, arousing. Surprisingly, I don't know what this book is, but I enjoyed reading it, and right now I'm actually reading the second book too. So yeah. Okay, back to the story. Like, so he assassinates the witch because she's distracted by touching herself. God damn, what am I doing in my life? Okay, yeah, back to it. So yeah, she gets assassinated. He grows to level 15. He ends up leaving the dungeon because he can no longer sustain himself in the dungeon because people aren't going in there anymore. All the other monsters are too low for him to be able to sustain his life. And so he goes off to the forest. Now this forest, he encounters a janther, which is kind of like a jaguar panther mix, if you can guess from the name. And so he ends up hiding in the janther's lair for a few days. Then a group of adventurers come by, and they fight the janther. Now the mimic has a choice. He can either fight the janther or help the janther. Now his options are weighed because the janther and the party are both losing health at the same time, but he's wondering what could happen for himself. Right. He knows he can eat both the janther and the party of adventurers, so he's debating. All in all, he ends up defeating the janther by stabbing him in the nuts because, well, it's this kind of book. So yeah, he stabs the janther in the nuts repeated times because that's apparently its only weakness. And then afterwards, he goes back to hiding and legit blows the head off the adventurer's healer. Like legit. He does a spell because he learned spellcaster spells after killing the witch, and he doesn't even aim. He legit just throws the spell because he wanted to try it out. It's legit. This dude is a MacGuffin all on his own. He's a legit his own ex machina. I don't even know if I'm using that right, but he is. So yeah, this girl's head gone, legit. Like 1 second is there, it's gone the next, and all you see is just blood splurting out, or all you can imagine, I should say, is blood splurting out, and like some of it gets into the party's mouth, some of it gets on the grass, and like this elf that's there, he takes the worst of it because apparently he wanted to get with this chick, and I can see why because the book describes her in a tasteful way. So yeah, that happens. He ends up killing the whole party except for the elf because that elf is a fucking coward. Because well, elf's got an elf, I guess. And so eventually he gets to a level where he gets to summon a demon as a familiar. If you guys don't know what a familiar is, it's basically like a servant that or a slave, whatever you want to do. You can do whatever the fuck you want to them. They can't attack you, they can't kill you, they can't do anything. But unless you give them the order to. So yeah, he summons this demon whose subclass race is a succubus. Now, a succubus in and of itself is essentially the whores of the demon clan. That's legit. That the book describes her as, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna instantly regret it, but having breasts literally almost the size of her head, having a tiny ass waist, a thick ass, like legit thick ass, like that chick is thicker than a bowl of oatmeal type shit. And yeah, I instantly regret describing this to you guys. I know fucking kids might be actually listening to this, but yeah. Either way, don't read this, kids. Don't read this until you're older. It's funny, but it's not for kids. Not at all. Well, yeah. Now, her name is Zira. It's short. It's a short name because her full demonic name is too hard to pronounce, and the mimic doesn't give a shit about her full demonic name, like any other person would. So yeah, he summons her. He ends up eating her a few times, and she ends up liking that at the end. At first, she complains, then she gets annoyed, and then she gets aroused. So legit, she turns into one of those sex-crazed maniacs that loves pain. I kid you not, this book is awesome. This is amazing, honestly. So, long story short, them two end up going into another dungeon, a higher level dungeon where they fight a flesh maiden. Now, flesh maiden is a new character to me because I have no idea what the hell that is. The description of her is basically like she's made of flesh, like her dress, her clothing, her weapons are not made of flesh. I'll tell you that. Her weapons are not made of flesh. So she has real weapons, but everything else is flesh. So I guess that's where the flesh maiden comes in. The fight between the mimic and the flesh maiden is actually pretty intense. Like, this is the toughest opponent the mimic ever fought. And the same goes for the flesh maiden. And she's surprised because a fucking mimic is a mimic. Like, no mimic should have that much power. And so yeah. At the end of the day, Mimic wins by using Ebon Fire, a new skill he picked up, and legit burning the soul of the Flesh Maiden. Like, he didn't even burn her. He burned her soul to the point where she just died from burns on the inside. I don't even know how that's possible. This dude is literally the luckiest of the lucky. If you guys know Juan, my other co-host, that dude has dumb luck. Compared to Juan, this Mimic is a god. For some reason, like, legit, Juan has legit dumb luck, but we praise him for it. This mimic has godlike dumb luck, and I honestly am for this. This is amazing. So yeah. After that, the mimic has a whole bunch of boosts in his skills and everything. He gets to be able to summon another demon called Korra. This one, not a succubus, not a whore, nothing like that. This one's called a fiend. Now, the fiends are more of a brawler type thing. They're more focused on muscles. They're more focused hand-to-hand combat, with a less focus on magic, unlike the succubus, where their form is more towards magic, where they use spells, they use illusions. They can morph their body too, in a sense. And so yeah, just like the mimic, they could change their body, just like the mimic can, but to a greater extent, because unlike the mimic, who has to keep the box form that is born in, the succubus demon race can change their physiology to an extent, not completely. Like, they can't change their sex. They can't go from male to female to male. They can't do that, but they could adjust their skin tone, their length of their hair, their height, in a sense, hide their wings, hide their tail, and everything like that. The fiend is also another female. Her name is Korra. Now, the book describes her as a buff ass chick, 4 arms, red skin, green eyes, and white hair, I believe. If anything, the picture I put up for this is gonna show if I'm wrong or not. But yeah, she has also armor on one side of her body and not on the other. She wears like sports. She's mostly like in a workout attire, like a sports bra, sports shorts, and everything like that. Boots, all white attire apparently though. All white attire. I could be wrong, but anyways, Korra legit is confused as to why a mimic is able to summon her. Like, everyone should be. Like, what the fuck is a mimic doing summoning demons? Why is a mimic this strong? Why is this fucking brainless idiot, as the book calls it, so fucking powerful? Like, why? But it's fucking awesome. Anyways, yeah. So they end up stealing the dungeon core, which is like a little orb that sits in the pedestal where the flesh maiden used to be. And once they steal it, like, I guess the owner of the dungeon or the owner of the realm says, "Oh, do you want to be the new dungeon master?" The mimic says, "No." He says again, "No." Again, the question, "Nope." Goes on for about 3 or 4 pages. Not like that. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. There's descriptions in between where Korra, Zira, and the mimic are trying to exit the dungeon with the core because, well, it's shiny and the mimic's still a dumbass, so he likes shiny things. But at the end of the conversation, the voice in his head says, "All right, boy, you should." No, not even that. "All right, you little bitch, have it your way. Don't say I didn't warn you though." And like after that, the core starts to expand and gets heavier and heavier. And Korra's trying to hold it up. She can still hold it, mind you, with just one arm, even though now it's basically twice her size, in a sense. But yeah, once they exit the dungeon, they realize, oh shit, this thing's about to explode. So Korra and Zira come up with the idea to push it into a town that's nearby. And by the time Korra pushes it into it, it's 30 seconds to explosion. Zira tries to run away, but she's caught in the explosion. She dies, but she's a familiar, and demons don't really have a physical form in a sense as the same as people do in the real world. They have kind of a physical form, but it's to a lesser extent where they could come back. If they die, they just go to the demon world and they could get summoned back. So she dies. The whole town fucking explodes in a sense. Like there's a crater. Like imagine just a meteor fell on this town. That's literally what it looks like. The mimic digs underground just to cover himself for the blast. Zira just fucking flies away because she can. And after the aftermath, you see just a whole bunch of stat boosts. Just literally, the mimic ends up reaching level 25, I believe. Evolves into a greater mimic, and then he ends up getting a warlock ability raised because he got that when he killed the witch, and a whole bunch of ability boosts. And he's happy about it because he's just happy because he's grown fascinated with his stat boost because he's had some intelligence boost too. Here and there he'll get some intelligence boosts and everything. But yeah, the book, that's towards the end of the book, mind you. The whole dungeon fight, the whole town exploding, the whole getting Korra and everything like that. Mind you, at the end of the book, Korra mentions that he could get a name. He could get a name. This whole time he could have had a name, but he did not know that. He was too dumb to realize he could have gotten a name. So he opens up his stat menu. He asks, "Oh, look, name." Then it shows that he doesn't have a name and is asked to randomize it. And he says, "Yeah, sure," because he can't think for a name for himself. It pops up as Boxy T. Morningwood. Legit, the title of this book, Morningwood, is the mimic's fucking last name. Of course it is. And Korra's on the side dying because of the name. Zira's saying, "Oh, I'm not calling you that." Like, legit, not calling you that. I can understand why, considering what the fuck, Morningwood as a last name. Imagine having Morningwood as a last name. But yeah, that's the book. Honestly, this book is amazing considering what it has in it. Like, I don't even mind the pseudo porn type shit. Like, it's there, just get over it. Like, you don't have to be embarrassed if you don't want. You don't have to be like, if you're embarrassed to read something like that, don't read this book. If you're not, read it. If you're just curious about what this book is about, like I was, like, just read it. Like, it's a good book. I'll try to leave a link to it. Like, I'll try to leave like something in the description. If not, then I'll just like post a picture of what this book looks like, and you guys can look it up on Amazon if you want to get the Kindle version. Go to your bookstore if you want to get the physical version or anything like that. But anyways, that's gonna do it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm reading the second book. I'm gonna do a video on that one most likely because there's 5 books actually in this. And so yeah, I'm reading the second book and we'll see how that goes. All right, see ya.